Hello, my name is Steve Hermann, and I'm the author of Mediumship Mastery, the ultimate guide, which is available on Amazon. I teach mediumship full-time. I've been teaching now for well over 30 years, worldwide in numerous countries. Been involved now for the last 40 or so. I lose track after a while, but I'm really into the training aspect. I'm into reading books on mediumship. I have a very large collection. I think I probably have one of the largest libraries in the United States of books on mediumship development, metaphysical and religious studies. I'm really into this stuff, and I want to recommend some books for those of you out there who are watching this in terms of mediumship development, because books will help enhance you as an individual. And the books that I'm going to recommend are classic books. Every library of anyone involved in the study of mediumship should have these books. You should possess these books, and you should read and study these books. And these books were written by a very prominent French spiritualist. And his name, he wrote under the pseudonym of Allan Kardec. And he wrote 5 classic works on the study of spiritualism and mediumistic communication. I mean, his books are phenomenal. You can't get any better than his books when it comes to understanding and educationally the benefit that they provide. There's many places worldwide, there are centers where they follow his teachings and they study his works religiously. Why? Because there's such great substance to them. Now, if we go back to the history of spiritualism, the new movement of spiritualism, the modern era of spiritualism, which started in upstate New York in 1848, March 31st, Easter morning, the phenomena with the Fox sisters, with the rapping mediumship. You could hear these loud raps, and they were able to establish communication with a deceased peddler who had been buried in the basement in Fox Cottage, the Fox family cottage. And this phenomena that started to take place, it's always been there in indigenous cultures. It's the basis for so many of the religious traditions here on this planet. There've always been mediums. It's not anything new. But the movement, the new era of spiritualism, it swept all over the North American continent. In 1852, Mrs. Hayden, she was a medium, and she went to England. She started working in London, where she stayed for a while, and it went to continental Europe. And that's where Allan Kardec got into it. In the early 1850s, he started getting involved and wondering what is going on. So he went and he attended different meetings, different seances or sessions with mediums. And he was an educator. He was someone who possessed considerable intellectual ability. And he wasn't just someone who went to some type of session with a medium and believed every single thing that was said, that was purported to be from the spirit world. He tested the mediums and he tested those in the world of the spirit. And beyond a shadow of a doubt, he received solid, convincing evidence of survival, combined with higher philosophy that was coming through some of the mediums. Information that indicated that there were higher intelligences at work behind the phenomena. Higher intelligences that had a hand in creating and producing the phenomena that was taking place. So the books that I'm going to recommend, and these books are fantastic, and all started out 1857 with this book, and it's called The Spirits Book. You want to learn about the spirit world, read this book. If you want to learn about the dynamics of what it's like for those individuals in the spirit world, how do they interact with us? How do they interact with each other? Not only that, what are the views of the higher spirits about so many different aspects, philosophically, scientific, and just living in life on a daily basis? This volume, you can read it many, many times, and you want to reread it again. And it's written because he did write these lessons that were almost like in catechism type form, question and answers. So there's questions, that's the format, that are asked of the medium. And then there's the answers that were received consensus-wise through very reliable instruments for the spirit world. And this came out in 1857. There's a lot of different translations of Kardec's works, and I recommend you read these. Now remember, it's written in French originally, and then so many of his works, one by one, they were translated into Spanish, they were translated into Portuguese, and they went worldwide. People were reading these on both sides of the Atlantic. And we have the Medium's book. Now, this book came out in 1861, and what's it about? It's probably the first manual on mediumship development. Now, I'm the author of Mediumship Mastery, the Ultimate Guide, and there's a lot of other books that have been written on mediumship development, but this thick volume is what started it all back in 1861. That's Civil War era if you live in the United States. That's a long time ago. And he classified all the different phases and types of mediumship, the different types of mediums, the psychological and physiological dispositions of the mediums. And this is very, very thorough, very extensive. And if you read it, it will also give you an insight to the experimentation that was taking place in that period. Remember, we didn't have teachers back in the 1850s or 1860s for mediumship. Groups had to get together, they had to connect with each other, and they had to even ask the spirit world, how should we proceed with these meetings? But this is a very, very, very good volume. I remember many years ago, different spiritualist churches seeing this volume in the library. A lot of spiritualists, they know about the Medium's book, although most people haven't really read it too much. How many of you have read this book? But I suggest, this is a book worth getting and looking into, because you'll learn a lot from it. Now, the other book is called The Gospel, According to Spiritism. And this book, which Kardec put out, I love this book. I think this is my favorite out of all of his books. And it's really going into the New Testament, the narrative of Jesus, the teachings of Jesus and the New Testament, the essence of Christianity, that there is no death and there are no dead. And it brings through the communications from the higher spirits. What is this philosophy from the higher realms in relation to Christianity? Put in terms without all of the theological baggage that was added on after the passing of Jesus when he was here in this physical world. I mean, this is really, really profound. This information, if you apply it to your development of your character and your moral development, it's going to really help you in your life. And sometimes people, they get so hung up, I want to be a medium, I'm going to work as a medium, I'm going to learn all these techniques and give readings, I'm going to bring through amazing evidential information. Hey, if you haven't worked on yourself morally, if you haven't developed your spirituality and your character, your mediumship is going to be deficient. You'll be a bit deficient as an individual too. Mediumistic ability, those attributes are great. They're universal. We all have them in varying degrees, and they can be cultivated through training. But you need to work on yourself. Now, this book I also love, and it's called Heaven and Hell. In my Father's house are many mansions, the Master Jesus taught. It's not talking about housing developments in your city. Jesus is talking about all these different levels of spirit. And Kardec's work, this is brilliant. I love this along with the Gospel so much. It's all about what it's like in the spirit world. Different planes of existence, different planes of consciousness, inhabited with individuals of varying degrees of consciousness or spiritual development. So you have areas of the spirit world which are populated by individuals who really just weren't that advanced when they were here physically. Hellish worlds, hellish planets, and then you have these very high types of realms, and everywhere in between. So what Kardec did, through very reliable mediums, he compiled the narratives or communications from various deceased, discarnate personalities, what they were like, what led to their transition into the world of spirit, and where are they now? Because remember, we pass the spirit world, and one of the big teachings that we have from the spirit world is personal responsibility and retribution. We need to make amends. We need to perfect ourselves. We need to work on our character. We need to become better people. And what we don't do here, and I joke sometimes, you needed 50 years of psychotherapy, well, you're going to have to get that psychotherapy if you don't get it here. And the therapists and healers in the spirit world will have their hands full. Now, the last book of Kardec's 5 classic works is called Genesis. And this is scientific. It talks about creation. It talks about the evolution of the soul, the evolution of the planet, the formation, physically, of the material universe. And it's all philosophy of the spirit. It's all spiritualist philosophy and higher teachings influenced through mediums from the higher personalities and teachers in the spirit world. Now, if we go back within the movement of spiritualism, spiritualism is like this tree. It branches out, just like in Christianity. You have all these different branches, the Roman Catholic Church. Of course, the Anglican or Episcopal Church broke off from the Roman Catholic. You have all these different Protestant denominations. Spiritualism is the same way. So it started out, the new spiritualism, as a movement. Not really a religious body, but as a movement that was meant to be universal. Now, Kardec used the term spiritism as opposed to the term spiritualism. And he had, in Europe at that time, there's particular approaches that were a bit different than what you would have found in England or the United States and Canada. The meetings weren't done like Protestant-style church services. Their approach was a bit different, and people who follow Kardec, his movement became very, very, very big in many of the Spanish-speaking countries. If you go to the Philippines, there's a couple thousand different spiritualist centers. It's known as Spiritism. Same thing. It's a bit different in the external way, some of the practices. It's the same movement, just a different expression, just a different branch of the same tree. And if we go to Brazil, because Kardec's works were translated quite nicely into Portuguese, tens of millions of individuals involved in the studies of spiritualism. And it's not just about giving messages. They're into philosophical study. They're into moral development, spiritual development, character development. One of the laws of mediumship is like attracts like. You want to be a good medium? Learn technique. That's great. You really want to be an exceptional medium. Learn to become a better person. Learn to become more loving. Learn to develop all these different higher spiritual attributes. Now, those attributes are there within our heart. But I'll tell you, if we study Kardec's work on a daily basis, that's wonderful. If we study Kardec's works even on a weekly basis, and worldwide, there's a lot of groups of spiritualists or spiritists. They have centers, they have meetings in their homes. Families can get together and study Kardec's works. I highly recommend you pick up some of his books. And if you don't have a library on this stuff, I guarantee you'll get so much out of Kardec's works, way more than most of the stuff that's being published nowadays, that tends to be on a very superficial or even sensationalistic type of level, commercially oriented. And I want to encourage you with your mediumship, because mediumship training is body, mind, and soul. There's, like I said, there's the psychic aspect, the technical aspect of it, because we have these natural attributes. But there's this other aspect which deals with consciousness. It deals with our eternal nature as spirit souls. Why are we here? What's the purpose of life? And most importantly, what do we need to accomplish while we're here that will take us to a higher type of level once we pass over and we leave, we vacate? How can we serve God? How can we better be more loving, more charitable, more giving from our hearts to others? And really, if we understand like the teachings of Jesus or these higher universal types of teachings, it's all about love and it's all about service. And I highly recommend Kardec's works. Now, I'm really into the mediumistic training aspect. I'm really into helping people with that. I teach a lot of online courses. I do individualized one-on-one mentoring for people. Got my book out, do readings, all those things. But if you like this video, please like it, of course, and please subscribe also to my channel. If you have any questions about mediumship or comments, please feel free to write below or get in touch with me. I'm pretty accessible, and I'm really will go out of my way to genuinely help you from my heart. So may God bless each and every one of you.